And if I want you to walk away with some next steps that if I just walk in and go, hey, you really suck at this.
Winging it might not be the way to go.
No, because we're not going to hit the goal, right? The goal is for you to go, oh, yeah, I actually do need to improve at that. Maybe I need to work on this thing. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily Grace Deal, what are we talking about today?
Difficult conversations are scary.
Yes, they are.
Especially between leaders and teams.
Yep.
Are there ways to prepare for those conversations so they are more likely to be successful?
I think that's a great question. And I think there's questions beget questions. There's three questions to really help guide us in this conversation. And the first one is stopping to pause and go, okay, what is my goal in this conversation? What do I want everybody to walk away with? What do I want them to understand?
Right.
We don't always clearly define it. I think we go in with a broad idea of, I want them to get this rough thing, but we don't really sit down and go, okay, what do specifically they need to walk away with? And what that does is start to inform how we need to have the conversation. If I want you to walk away with something that maybe you're struggling with, maybe you're not good at, maybe you're not, whatever it is, that's a hard conversation, right? And if I want you to walk away with some next steps that if I just walk in and go, hey, you really suck at this.
Winging it might not be the way to go.
No, because we're not going to hit the goal, right? The goal is for you to go, oh yeah, I actually do need to improve at that. Maybe I need to work on this thing.
Yeah.
If that's the goal, if I walk in aggressively and just, we talked earlier about blame, right? We had an episode about how blame causes the same physical response as a physical attack. It causes fight or flight. So understanding the goal helps us go, okay, do I need to approach this in a different way?
Right. That makes sense. Because if you're, the way you have a conversation is just as important. Trying to get to the end point, trying to understand what needs to happen, and that not everyone's going to have the same process or has had the same amount of time to think about what you've been thinking about.
You know, that's a great point, because I think as a leader, sometimes I have wrestled with hard conversations I need to have with people that I lead. And I've probably sweated over that. I have literally spent hours or days going, how do we do this well? And now I'm going to just come in and rip the Band-Aid off to get it over with and not give them the space to process.
It's the first time they're hearing about it and you've been thinking about it. You have to give them a little bit more time to do their own rumination.
That's an incredible insight. That is very, very true. So I think defining that goal and understanding what do we want people to walk away with. And I love the idea of giving them space to understand this. The second question is, what is my fear telling me? Your fear is always going to paint worst case scenario. It is never, my fear has never piped up and been like, here's how this is going to go real well.
It's good. Don't worry.
It pipes up and says, don't walk into the room. You're going to die. Okay. And I think that's true of all of our fears, right? And so that fear will paint a worst case scenario, which can often, it does two things. I think it stops us from having the conversation. And I think it also, if we approach the conversation scared, we're going to approach it differently, right? I think we're not going to approach it the way we need to.
It just puts you in extremes. It puts you in the what is the worst that could possibly go?
You're already preparing for the explosion. You're preparing for the bad conversation. You know, we never ask the question, what could go right? And I can't remember, I saw somebody do that in a talk the other day. They said, ask the question, what could go right? We never explore that, do we? We don't spend any time on it.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to go into that negative space pretty quickly.
And what's really interesting is our fear is often lying to us. Rarely is it telling us the truth. What it's trying to do is keep us contained and small and safe. So it says, don't have the conversation. It'll be bad. And if you're
avoiding that conversation, the time that you're avoiding it, it's really just making it worse. Because if you come to me and say, hey, this has been happening and we need to have whatever conversation, the delay there is what's going to stress me out. The fact that it's still happening and you didn't tell me, that's not all hard conversations. This has been bothering
me for 6 months. That's a devastating conversation, right? Versus, hey, I noticed a thing the other day. Can we talk about it? That's a whole different conversation. I think so what is my fear telling me? Really identifying that and asking what could go right with this? How could this be beneficial and good? The third question is, what version of me needs to show up to have this conversation successfully? I think we often, again, unintentionally show up, right? We show up with fear informing us. So we're scared, we're armored up, we're prepared for a fight. And we always say, if you're looking for a fight, you're going to find one 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what version of me needs to show up? Do I need to be open? Do I need to be empathetic? Do I need to be grace-filled? Like, what version of me is going to help me achieve the goal that you established in the first question?
Right.
And I think that is to me one of the most important questions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how we show up every day, we talk about that all the time, how important that is.
And how it's story-based, right? It's like, what story am I going to walk in believing? If I walk in believing this is going to be a disaster, I'm going to find a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
If I walk in believing we're going to have a tough but very productive conversation.
Yeah, we can learn from this. Yeah.
It wires your brain differently to show up and have that conversation. And I think in that case, you are far more likely to hit that goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a lot of that, like when you show up and you think I'm right, they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. There's no room there to learn or have a good conversation or have any understanding or curiosity in that space.
And the curiosity you bring up, because again, this goes back to the episode. We just need to link back to it. The episode about, we'll make a note about that. The episode about blame and what it does to us, because ultimately we need to be able to have those hard conversations with curiosity, not with blame, and ownership, not blame. And so really that is a big, big key to this. So these two episodes pair up really, really well. Leaders, let's talk next steps. If you have a difficult conversation in front of you that you recognize it, maybe you've been hesitating to have it because it really is hard and scary. Let's acknowledge that. These 3 questions will kind of help guide you. 1, what is my goal in the conversation? What do you want to accomplish with this? 2, what is your fear telling you? What could go right versus what's going to go wrong? And 3, what version of you needs to show up to have that conversation successfully, to hit that goal? And I loved Emily's point of you need to create space for them to process, because you may have been wrestling with this conversation in your head for a long time, and they're just now hearing it for the first time. So create some of that space and really walk in with curiosity to try to find solutions together. That's really what the goal is ultimately. All right. Thank you for bringing that. If people have questions, they have things they want to send us to wrestle with, where do they send that to?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us online, you are creating an insane amount of social content, all about leadership, all about things just like this. Where do they find us?
@forwardpartner.
@forwardpartner on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, most importantly, LinkedIn. Thank you for this conversation and all your hard work. All we're contributing to the leadership community.
Thank you.
John, thank you for producing. I always look your way. I don't know if that affects the mic and whether or not people can hear me, but thank you for producing, John. You're doing an amazing job. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please share this with fellow leaders. If you've got leaders that are struggling with difficult conversations, share this episode with them. Let them walk through those 3 questions. See if that helps redefine how they need to approach that conversation. And we will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.